What if I told you the Fonz, the king of cool, spent most of his life thinking he was stupid, and that only after decades in Hollywood he finally learned the truth and used it to change millions of lives? This isn't just another celebrity story. It's a journey of heartbreak, redemption, and a shocking confession that almost no one knows. Stay with me, because what Henry Winkler reveals might change the way you see your own struggles. He grew up in the shadows of towering expectations and unbearable silence. Henry Winkler's childhood wasn't just difficult, it was isolating. Born in Manhattan in 1945 to Jewish parents who had narrowly escaped Nazi Germany, he was the living proof of survival. But he bore scars no one could see. His parents had fled with only what they could carry, but they didn't leave behind the weight of grief. One uncle, delayed by mere days, didn't survive. That loss haunted the family like a quiet echo. His parents rebuilt a life in New York, pouring their energy into a lumber business, working day and night to create a sense of control. But control didn't bring understanding, and it certainly didn't help them comprehend their son's learning struggles. To them, Henry's poor grades weren't symptoms of a hidden learning difference. They were failures. They called him cruel names. Punishments were relentless. Television privileges vanished. Outings were canceled. No matter how hard he tried, nothing ever seemed enough. He wasn't defiant. He was confused. Why couldn't he make sense of the numbers and letters that danced across the pages? Why did words betray him in front of classmates? He didn't know he had dyslexia. No one did. And without that explanation, shame seeped into every corner of his young life. Behind closed doors, his parents' constant arguments only deepened the turmoil. Home was never a refuge. It was a minefield of anger and misunderstanding. By high school, the damage was done. Henry carried the invisible wound of believing he was broken. In classrooms, he was often sent to the corner. When he stumbled reading aloud, laughter followed. He told no one how much it crushed him. The boy who would later bring so many people joy was drowning quietly. He wouldn't understand the real reason for his struggles until much later, at age 31, when his stepson received the same diagnosis he had unknowingly lived with his whole life. But something inside him refused to collapse. At 14, he made a decision that would shape his future. He would become an actor. It didn't make sense to his parents. They had planned a different path for him, one lined with financial security and family business traditions. But when he stepped onto a stage, something magical happened. The fog lifted. He wasn't the kid who couldn't read. He was someone else entirely. At his 8th grade play, when the applause echoed through the room, it wasn't just noise. It was the first moment he truly felt seen. From that moment, he pursued that feeling. He developed ways to navigate around his reading limitations, memorizing scripts, participating in discussions instead of writing papers. He built a kind of armor from his charm and charisma. Despite setbacks, he pushed forward. Out of 28 college applications, only 2 accepted him. He chose Emerson College and threw himself into theater. The early years were brutal, but on stage, something clicked. He shone in a production of Peer Gynt, and his professors began to recognize his raw, unshaped brilliance. Graduating in 1967, Henry didn't stop. That same year, he aimed higher, auditioning for Yale School of Drama. The audition was Shakespearean, intimidating, and when the time came, he froze. He forgot everything. And then he did the unthinkable. He improvised Shakespeare. It was risky, but it worked. The judges saw something in his fearless instinct. He was accepted. Yale was intense, and the challenges were endless, especially for someone who couldn't process text easily. But Henry found his rhythm. He worked harder than everyone around him. If he forgot lines, he made them up. No one noticed. He graduated with a Master of Fine Arts in 1970, one of only 11 to finish in his class. The stage became his second home. The Yale Repertory Theater hired him that year. He made $173 a week performing in plays that demanded everything. Shakespeare, Brecht, experimental theater. It was relentless, but he absorbed it all, each performance sharpening his craft. Behind the scenes, he struggled more than anyone knew. What others read in hours, he memorized in days. When memory failed, he improvised. No one knew he couldn't read the scripts word for word. He made the roles his own. Then, just when things seemed to align, everything unraveled. In 1971, after being cast in Moonchildren at the Arena Stage in Washington, D.C., he was suddenly fired. Not because of performance, but because he had been a temporary stand-in. The director had always planned to replace him. That betrayal cut deep. On the drive back to New York, tears blurred the road. He wasn't just driving home, he was questioning everything. Was this the end of his dream? Was he just not good enough? But heartbreak didn't stop him. Henry pivoted. If theater doors were closing, he'd find another way. He started auditioning for commercials, eventually booking over 30 in just 2 years. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and bought him time. Time to stay in the game. With that financial cushion, he joined the Manhattan Theater Club, performing on stage for free, and a local improv group called Off the Wall New York. Each move was deliberate. He was building his skills, his confidence, and his reputation. Then came the moment every actor dreams of. Broadway. On March 11, 1973, he stepped into the spotlight in 42 seconds from Broadway. But dreams turned into dust in a single night. The show closed after just one performance. One night. Years of effort gone in 24 hours. It could have shattered him. But instead, he made a promise. This wouldn't be the story people remembered. Later that year, a new chapter opened. He landed a role in The Lords of Flatbush, sharing the screen with an unknown Sylvester Stallone. The low-budget film gave him what he needed: camera experience and credibility. Around the same time, he appeared in Crazy Joe. These roles weren't blockbusters, but they showed something crucial. He had something people couldn't ignore. Even as auditions remained difficult, especially the cold readings he dreaded, he pushed through. He developed new ways to prepare, bypassing the traditional route and leaning on his instincts. Casting agents noticed the sincerity behind his nervous energy. The talent was there, raw, untamed, and unforgettable. They stepped off the plane in Los Angeles on September 18, 1973, with nothing but ambition and a few commercial checks in Henry Winkler's pocket. Perry King was by his side, supporting the dream they both weren't entirely sure would survive. But fate was already at work. Within just 5 days of landing, Winkler booked a guest role on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. It was brief, barely a blip on the radar, but the ripple it caused was undeniable. That tiny crack in the door? It widened fast. He wasn't invisible anymore. The calls started coming. Auditions followed. And then a moment arrived that seemed too small to matter, but it changed everything. A second audition came his way, this time for a role with just 6 lines on a new show. The creators were searching for a tall, blonde heartthrob. Winkler was neither tall nor blonde. At 5 feet 6 inches, with dark features and a different kind of energy, he was the wrong type on paper. But he had something they didn't expect: a spark that couldn't be measured by casting specs. October 30th, his birthday, became the day that rewrote his destiny. He walked into that room, leather jacket slung on, voice altered, lines delivered, and when he was done, he didn't wait for feedback. He tossed the script into the air and walked out. A bold exit, a silent mic drop. Everyone in the room just stared, stunned. That same afternoon, the phone rang. The role was his, but he had a request. He didn't want to play a hollow stereotype. He wanted depth. A cool guy with a soul. And just like that, a character who was never supposed to lead ended up defining an era. When Happy Days premiered in January 1974, Winkler's character, Fonzie, was supposed to be a sidekick, just background. In his very first scene, the script called for him to slick back his hair in front of a mirror, but Winkler stopped. That move had been done to death. So instead, he raised the comb, paused, nodded at his reflection, and tucked the comb away. It said everything without saying a word. His hair was already perfect. Why fix it? Producers initially pushed back, but Winkler stood firm. And just like that, Fonzie's quiet confidence became his signature. But getting that signature look on screen took a battle. ABC hated the idea of a leather jacket. It screamed trouble, they said. So Winkler was forced into fabric jackets, one even bright green, for the entire first season. It didn't fit, not the character, not the vibe. Director Gary Marshall came up with a workaround. He told the network Fonzie needed leather for motorcycle safety, so the show started shoving Fonzie's bike into every scene, whether it made sense or not. Sometimes it was just parked in the corner, but it was enough. Eventually, leather became a staple. That jacket didn't just become iconic. It ended up in the Smithsonian, locked in time as a piece of American pop culture. In the beginning, Richie Cunningham was supposed to be the heart of Happy Days. Ron Howard had top billing, and Fonzie? He had 6 lines. But a Christmas episode in December of that first year changed everything. It put Fonzie in focus, and the audience reaction was electric. Suddenly, Winkler was swarmed during press tours. 20,000 people showed up at a Dallas department store just to catch a glimpse of him. The ratings soared. ABC took notice, and the power started shifting. At one point, they even considered renaming the show Fonzie's Happy Days. By season 3, he was the lead. There's a moment that still stings in the show's lore. During Christmas, the network gave the cast matching wallets. But Winkler? He got a state-of-the-art VCR worth thousands. The message was clear. Even Ron Howard felt the shift. He once said he felt pushed aside in what had been his show. But the audience had chosen their hero. Fonzie's leather jacket was in the Smithsonian. His catchphrases echoed in living rooms across the country. And in 1999, TV Guide ranked him the 4th greatest television character of all time. He was a cultural lightning bolt. But when the show wrapped in 1984, the applause didn't follow him. Hollywood turned cold. For nearly a decade, Winkler struggled. No one wanted the Fonz, at least not off-screen. Every casting director saw the jacket before the man. It became a shadow. He had turned down Grease to avoid being typecast, but the effort didn't matter. In the audition rooms, he was invisible again. He described it as a kind of psychic wait, a haunting silence after years of noise. And yet, he didn't disappear. He evolved. While still on Happy Days, he had quietly launched Fair Dinkum Productions. By 1987, that little company had a deal with a major studio. One of its early wins, a scrappy action series called MacGyver. It became a cultural touchstone. And Winkler? He wasn't just surviving, he was building. Producing shows like The Sure Thing, Sightings, and So Weird, he slipped into a new role behind the curtain. Then he made another move, directing. First Memories of Me in 1988, then Cop and a Half in 1993. It wasn't a blockbuster, but it was made by Ron Howard's company. Yes, that Ron Howard. Time, it seemed, had healed old tensions. Through all of it, his personal life remained his anchor. He married Stacy Weitzman in 1978, embracing her son Jed as his own. Together they had 2 more children, Zoe and Max. Today they share 6 grandchildren. One of them, Ace, collects shot glasses from every city Henry visits, a quirky bond that keeps them connected. Winkler often says the secret to a long marriage isn't just love, it's listening. The ear, he says, matters more than the heart. But underneath the charm was a lifetime of silent struggle. One night, when Jed had trouble with homework, Henry's frustration boiled over. He scolded him, told him to work harder. But what came next changed everything. Jed was diagnosed with dyslexia, and in that moment, Henry recognized the reflection, his own story buried in his son's struggle. At 31, he finally understood the thing that had haunted him his entire life. He hadn't been lazy. He hadn't been dumb. He had been undiagnosed. And for the first time, the Fonzie mask cracked, revealing the man behind it. A man finally free to understand who he really was. He was once dismissed as lazy by his own parents, who'd fled a war-torn Europe hoping their son would be something perfect. But perfection didn't come in test scores. It came in resilience. What they didn't know was that Henry Winkler had been battling dyslexia his entire life. And once diagnosed at 31, everything shifted. That label didn't limit him. It liberated him. It gave meaning to the confusion and purpose to his future. His kids, Zoe and Max, would later receive the same diagnosis. But this time, history didn't repeat. It evolved. Henry refused to let another child feel shame for learning differently. He turned his voice into a beacon, first for his family, then for the world. In 1990, alongside his wife Stacy, Steven Spielberg and Kate Capshaw, he co-founded the Children's Action Network. Their mission? Get kids immunized. Get them adopted. Get them seen. More than 200,000 children received vaccinations thanks to their work. That legacy earned him the Norma Zarki Humanitarian Award. And with that, Henry did what so many in Hollywood struggle to do. He made fame useful. In 2018, after 43 years of waiting, he finally heard his name called at the Emmys. On stage, he said, "If you stay at the table long enough, the chips come to you." And just like that, Hollywood's most patient player finally got to cash in. Even during the pandemic, while others slowed down, Henry pushed forward. Barry's third season faced shutdowns, tight COVID protocols, and long delays. But he persevered. When it finally aired in 2022, critics raved. Nominations poured in. Critics' Choice, SAG, Emmys, Golden Globes. His character's arc, from self-serving narcissist to man grappling with guilt and grief, was raw, honest, unforgettable. Beyond the screen, Henry's global impact only deepened. In 2011, Queen Elizabeth II named him an honorary officer of the Order of the British Empire, not for acting, but for championing dyslexia awareness in UK schools. He wasn't a guest star, he was a difference maker. At schools like Howard Primary and during visits to Belfast, he didn't preach, he connected. His message was crystal clear. You are not broken, you just learn differently. And that struck a chord with kids who had never seen themselves in success stories before. At home, Henry lived his truth. He married Stacy in 1978 and helped raise 3 children, Zoe, Max, and Jed. As a father and now a grandfather to 6, soon to be 7, he's always chosen empathy over expectation. Whether it's calling his daughter before taking his grandson to McDonald's or accepting a grandchild's love for Barbies without question, Henry's rule is simple. Let them paddle down their own river. And through it all, Winkler has built an empire rooted in authenticity. Financially, his portfolio is impressively diverse. He owns multiple properties, including a sprawling estate in Los Angeles and a vacation home in Montana. His car collection includes a Porsche 911 and a Tesla Model S. He's worn vintage Rolexes and modern Omega timepieces. He's held investments in entertainment startups, children's publishing, and health tech. Henry has been covered by comprehensive insurance. Everything from disability and career interruption to asset protection. The big takeaway? Build wealth slowly, diversify often, and never let fame spend faster than you earn. Henry Winkler's journey isn't just about reinvention. It's about redemption with grace. He turned misunderstanding into mission, comedy into catharsis, and failure into fuel. And through every chapter he proved that kindness isn't weakness, it's a superpower. If that inspired you, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more Hollywood Untold stories.